Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Hashtag Dealing. This is the place where we really talk about and tackle the issues and the topics that we know are important in your life, that are important in our lives. These are things we want to be free from. These are serious topics that we know are in our minds. These are things that we're really working through in our different lives. Over the last few sessions, we've really been talking through mental wellness, mental illness, and we've really seen the Lord do a lot in terms of shifting our perspective, helping us to think more clearly, bringing awareness to this particular issue of mental wellness. We're going to continue down that trajectory today with a very strong focus on relationships. Tony has given us some hints before, and I'm sure all of us have been wondering, what does it mean there's a connection between relationships and health? So today we're going to go deeper into that particular topic. But before we go on, as you know, I'm not alone. You guys know I don't know much about this, so we are with Tony Friday, who is with us, today. Tony, I mean, the last few days have been incredible for us, right? We've been impacted. There's been a lot of freedom that we are enjoying and experiencing. How has it been for you?
It's been such an honor, man. It's been such a blessing to be able to share with you guys because I always get excited at opportunities to bring awareness that leads to freedom in the arena of the mind and the emotions because that's the thing that is most passionate that I'm most passionate about because we enjoy life through our minds and our emotions and our interactions with other people. They depend on how well we are mentally and emotionally. So I'm humbled that you guys would give me the platform to talk about some of these things. Overall, it's been an amazing experience for me to just be able to just having the opportunity to share some of these things, which the Bible has always been saying that, but maybe um, we needed to do this so that we can see it in a different way. We needed to have a change in perspective, as you said, for us to really start to enjoy freedom. For some people, it will be just reminders because they know some of the things already. For some people, it will be new information. But either way, I would encourage everybody to just come with an open mind. They say that to an expert the opportunities the opportunities are few, but to an amateur or a learner, the opportunities are endless. So I would just encourage you to take that attitude of a learner because life is all about learning. It's a continuous um, journey of learning. So you can never know enough about anything. I am learning as I share, because there's just so much to talk about when it comes to the area of the mind and the area of the emotions.
Wow, hey, it's always amazing when you hear somebody who's been watering us getting a sense of I'm actually being watered too, as I'm actually watering. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Tony, you are the founder of the Global Institute of Emotional Health and Wellness. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? What do you guys do? Why did you start it? Just give us a little bit of background to that.
So this organization was made came to life with one aim, and the aim was to have a safe space for people to come to when they are mentally and emotionally burdened. Because in this side of the world, we don't value mental health so much, but we are only starting to wake up to the realities and the impact of how mental health is affecting our lives. So the organization basically is a safe space for people to come to, non-judgmental. You're guaranteed that when you get in touch with any one of our counselors, you will speak to someone who will listen to you and they will not judge you and they will help you guide you to your own solution. So we usually use digital means the most because we discovered that where we are as a world, we are slowly moving towards the digital. I mean, look at you and me. Whoever imagined there would be a time when we could connect it digitally um, and share such profound insights, about life, about the world. So basically, we're very passionate about the digital. So we use the digital to reach out to people. or for people to reach out to us and get help for mental and emotional health issues.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that context. What an opportune day for freedom, today, and to really tackle this topic. Because for us here in South Africa, we're celebrating Freedom Day, So
Oh
let it be a
yes,
day of freedom
yes.
for us in
We
our
happy
mental
Freedom
health,
Day.
right?
Freedom Day to everybody. Yes.
So what an opportunity time. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so through this entire day, you guys are gonna hear a lot of exciting and dense and really life-changing content. You're gonna have some questions, you're gonna have some comments. Feel free to post them, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, whichever social media platform you are on, and we'll be sure just to flag this, particularly the questions. So if you have questions that come up to your mind that you want answered, that you're curious about, whether it's from even the previous sessions or specifically this one, post it in the comment section, and we will try our best to address as many of those sessions of those questions as possible. But without
Mhm.
further ado, let's jump straight into it. Tony, you have teased
Right.
us, in the last 2 days about this issue that there's a connection between mental illness or mental health with relationships. What do you mean
Yeah.
by that? Can you just explain to us what is that connection? What does that actually mean?
So Proverbs 4:23 says that guard your heart, which is another way of saying the mind. Guard your heart with everything you have, with all diligence, because all streams of life flow from it. That's a foundational scripture for mental health. Guard your heart with everything you have, because all the streams of life flow from it. There's another scripture in Proverbs which says, "As a man thinks, so is he." As a man thinks, so is he. Now, I'm going to quickly touch on the other streams of life that we have already mentioned before. We mentioned that your mental health affects your physical health. How well you are physically is dependent on how well you are mentally and emotionally. There's no denying that fact. We even gave some examples of how certain diseases are linked to how well you think or how well your mind works. We even went into the stats and we discovered that 87 to 95% of people that go to a doctor in this day and age are going there for mental health related issues, which then manifest themselves in the physical body. So physical health is one, and relationships are also one of those things that are affected. It's one of the areas of life that is directly affected by your mental health. What do I mean by that? What I mean is how well you relate to other people depends on how well you are mentally and emotionally. Relationships, human beings are created for relationship. We are relational human beings. And what that means is that we thrive on relationships. No man is an island. That's where it, if you, Mr. Mulawazi, we gave you all the money in the world and we left you on an island, you would be depressed and eventually kill yourself, because there are no other human beings. Um, there are no other human beings around you. When they punish people for committing crimes, what do? They isolate people from society. Why not beat them up? Why not do, like, give the, because that is the highest form of punishment you can give a human being who thrives on relationship. So when you commit a crime and you're sent to prison for a certain period of time, it's a punishment because they understand the fundamental truth that human beings are relational creatures. We thrive on relationships including relationship with other people, your husband, wife, your brothers, your sisters, society in general. So being sent to prison is a punishment that affects your relationships, because you are isolated from the people that you know, people that you are used to, people that you connect to, right? So I just wanted to show you how we are created as relational beings. We thrive on each other. But a lot of the times when we attempt to coexist with other human beings, we run into problems when some of us are not mentally and emotionally okay. Now, I'm going to go backtrack a little bit and say that every human being, when they are created, when they are born pure, and they have no traumas. You are healthy. You're full of love. The most loving beings on the planet are kids. Do you know why? Because kids have not been tainted by the world. So kids will love passionately. They will forgive quickly. They do not hold on against. They don't hold anything against anyone. Like kids can literally fight one moment and kiss and make up the next moment, and life goes on. But as we grow up in society, as we are taught to look out for ourselves. We are taught to fear because of the traumas that we go through as children. A child learns fear. Fear is not a natural part of a human being. We did mention in the other session that the default setting for the human brain is love. The default setting for the human brain is love. And anything that is not love will cause all kinds of chaos in your mind and in your body. So because we live in such a toxic environment, most of us are born into toxic families, are born into toxic environments, and we learn to fear. We go through all kinds of traumas, whether it was physical abuse or verbal abuse or sexual abuse or whatever it was. It teaches you to fear. And human beings have this default, we have a mechanism to protect self from pain and hurt. So a child who was bullied in school is very likely to become an aggressor in the future if their issues are not dealt with, because it's an attempt to protect themselves from further pain and further hurt from other people, right? So as we grow up, we become careful and we become protective we literally build up walls, whether you're a man or you're a woman. Whereas when you start getting into relationships, like romantic relationships, and you're old enough to do that, and you are still experiencing pain. So you can imagine someone who has been experiencing pain from when they were young. They probably grew up and they were raised by toxic, abusive parents, and that taught them pain. And then they get into the adult world, and then they date people, and they are taught pain. They learn that there's such a thing as heartbreaks, and they are abandoned, and they are abused, and they are hurt, and they are cheated on, and all of these are wounds that they accumulate. These are wounds that we accumulate, and we get to a point where we become paranoid. We are not able to love freely and passionately because we have been taught to protect self. I'm sure you've heard people talk about building walls. And building walls, here's how walls work. You build walls in an attempt to protect yourself from pain. But that same wall becomes a prison for you because you do not have the ability to take it down. So you've literally become a prisoner of your own walls. Initially, the walls were meant to protect you from pain or physical hurt. As I was saying that, sometimes when people are abused a lot when they were younger, they become the aggressors when they grow older, because if they as little as suspect that you could be coming after them, they go after you before you come after them. And they become the aggressors. We read the stories of R. Kelly. R. Kelly was abused when he was young. He was sexually abused when he was young. And as he grew older, he became the aggressor. And he sexually abused many, many, many children. I'm sure you've been following the news and hearing the stories. He's still in prison right now since July 2019. He hasn't even gone to trial yet because of the crimes that he committed against women. And the evidence is overwhelming. It's an example of how someone who went through pain then become the aggressor in an attempt to protect self, because it's a mechanism that we come up with. And it's no different when it comes to relationship. Ask a woman who has been heartbroken one too many times. They stop being loving, they stop being passionate, they even shy away from relationships altogether because of what pain has taught them. Now, pain teaches the mind to run. Pain teaches the mind to run, because the mind, part of the mind, one of its functions for survival for a human being is to remind you of pain, so that, I mean, think about this: when you are young and you're a little child and you're born, and then you touch a fire, and then you now know that, oh, if I touch a fire, I get burnt. The next time you see a fire, your mind is very quick to remind you that, we are not going there, because the pain is literally, the memory of that pain is literally stored in your brain, and you know it, and you know it well. And it's so, in that sense, that reminder from the mind is useful because it protects us from harm and danger. But guess what? It also works when it comes to relating with people. When we experience a heartbreak one too many times, guess what happens? The next time that somebody expresses an interest in you, it's a reminder. The mind will remind you. Even though the heart is yearning for that love, for that passion, the mind will remind you that, sister, you're playing with fire. Are you sure you want to go down this road again, But my question is always, is this what God intended for his children? Is this what he said? Did he ever say in his word that, you know what, if you get bent once, it's a reason for you to resign for the rest of your life? No, he doesn't. In fact, in John 10:10 says, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I come to you, and I've come to you to give you life, and not only life, but life in abundance. When we pray the Lord's Prayer, we say, may it be done on earth as it is in heaven. That is when Jesus was teaching us to pray, the first prayer that he taught us was, may it be on heaven as it is on earth. May it be on earth as it is in heaven. Now, is this abundance that you are experiencing right now? Obviously, no. Is this heaven on earth that you're experiencing in your relationships? Obviously, no. So, but knowing it is not enough, because experientially you have gone through too many incidences where the pain was just so much, and now you shy away from relationships because of what you went through. Even when you do get into relationships, you're very guarded, you're very protected. You don't open up yourself to someone to love them fully, because you are just waiting for that one day when they disappoint you. And that day will surely come. And I'll tell you how that day comes. Because you are not fully open. Because you're not fully open and you're not passionate enough. It's only a matter of time before the next person sees that, you know what, you're giving me a half measure or even a quarter measure. And it's only a matter of time before they see it and they walk away, because they also want somebody who's going to give themselves fully to them. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you created a situation where the next person then says, oh, okay, cool. If you're not willing to open up and give yourself to me fully, then I might as well move on to the next person. And then you look back and you say, aha, you see, I told you, these things will happen to me. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy and all of that. But if you are brave, and if you want the will of God to manifest itself in the arena of relationships, then the first step is to start to find your own healing in the arena of relationships. And I'm using romantic relationships as an example, because I know that that's where a lot of the pain that we go through as human beings come from. A lot of our pain is as human beings come from relationships gone wrong. And relationships go wrong because you have two wounded people who are trying to coexist, and they keep rubbing each other's wounds and triggering each other. And they, for the life of them, they can't understand why they never seem to connect and be intimate and really, enjoy the kind of love that God meant for them to enjoy. But they keep stepping on each other's toes and wrapping each other's wounds without even knowing that there's wounds there. And they think that they are each other's enemies, but really and truly, the enemy is the wounds that they carry, which they have not been brave enough to face and say, you know what, I think I need to deal with this temper issue. I think I need to deal with this paranoia issue. I think I need to trust a lot more. I think I need to treat this person as they are, not as I was treated before.
Wow. That's a lot of content right there. Very helpful. Remember, if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to post them in the comment section and we'll be able to tackle those as we go along. That's a lot of information, Tony. Maybe there's somebody who's watching and saying, well, Tony, I've been burnt way too many times. My hands, they used to be beautiful and so forth, but they are scorched, they're ash now. That's how burnt I've been. How do I deal with that problem that I've gone through? Like, what are some things that I can use now to help me? Or I've actually burnt other people. How do I deal with the guilt, that I still carry in that regard? Like, what are some tools that you would give me?
So let me first of all start by saying that the first thing that must happen is for you to acknowledge that there's an issue. Because I'll tell you what we do as people. We blame people for our issues. That is the first problem. And because we never ever, you cannot have 5 or 6 people that you dated say the same thing about you and not see the common denominator in that. If people say, I'm giving an example, if people say you are very untrusting and you are very paranoid, and it comes up in every relationship that you are in, that is a sign that there is an issue that needs to be dealt with. Remember I said in the other session that emotions are gifts that we get, and those gifts contain information on what we need to deal with the most. So in your interactions with people, right, and every time you, let's say, I'll use a very common example. The moment you touch your partner's phone, before you even go through it or anything, and your heart starts beating fast, right? And your heart starts beating fast, and you go through that, physiological reaction, emotional reaction to the whole situation, right? In that moment, you have a choice. And that choice is you can act upon that emotion without ever questioning it and start accusing the next person of all kinds of things. Or you can, which is a more productive approach, you can say, what is this emotion teaching me? What is it here to show me? Because it's a clue. It's giving you a clue to something that you have that you clearly have not dealt with. Because you can take 2 people and put them in the exact situation. 2 partners' phones there. One of them will hold their partner's phones and everything is fine. They'll go in there and start looking for games or whatever. And the other one will have a panic attack just by holding a partner's phone without even opening it. That is a sign that you have trust issues. Yes, you've been burnt before, but that emotional reaction is showing you something about things that you need to deal with. Because your trust issues, if you don't address them, you will always be suspicious of everyone. And guess what? You can't have a meaningful, fulfilling relationship when you're always so paranoid and you're always so untrusting. And a lot of the times you will realize that your emotional reactions don't actually reveal the truth, but they reveal the wounds in you. And I always tell people, emotions are not facts. Emotions are not facts. Emotions will amplify, exaggerate, and distort situations, and they change all the time, and they cannot be trusted to act from. But when you act from principle, you know that you will know before you even act that you are acting from something much more solid. I read a quote once, which I thought was super powerful. Somebody wrote as a quote, and they said, "I've gone through a lot of horrible things in my life, some of which actually happened." I'll say it again. I've gone through a lot of horrible things in my life, some of which actually happened. What does that mean? It means that a lot of the emotional pain that you go through is not based on facts, but based on emotions that are triggered by traumas that you've gone through in your life before. But we continue to treat emotions as facts. Emotions are feedback. That's all they are. They are gifts. They give you feedback on how healthy you are mentally. So the problem is not the dashboard warning light that is coming on. I mean, when you see the oil light come on a car dashboard, you don't get upset at you don't react to what you know. There's a deeper issue, which is in the engine. It's showing you something gone wrong in the engine. So your job is not to fight the emotion. You just say to the emotion, thank you for showing me that there's something that I need to pay attention to. But we go through life treating emotions as facts, and emotions are not facts. Emotions are just feedback on the quality of your thinking. So let's put this into a practical setup, right? Your wife says something to you that has got you feeling some kind of way, right? Wisdom says, pause, question that emotion. Where is it coming from? Is she really being disrespectful to you, or you are perceiving her to be disrespectful to you because you've been in similar situations and people have said similar things and you thought they were being disrespectful, and all the while not realizing that they were not being disrespectful. They were giving you constructive feedback on something that you should work on. But you continue to treat everybody as the enemy and not ever see the common denominator in all of these situations. And that common denominator was you. You've been your own worst enemy. I'll quickly touch on anger because I know that anger causes a lot of emotional trauma in relationships. Anger is a fear-based reaction to things. I know this doesn't make sense, but I will explain just now. Anger has its root in fear. When people fear, they respond to situations with anger because anger is a protection mechanism that people use to, number one, get their way, and number two, to protect themselves from further pain. So somebody who's been abused, somebody who was bullied when they were young, or maybe somebody went through some kind of abuse by previous partners, they adopt anger as a coping mechanism to prevent further pain and hurt. Remember, we said in the beginning that the victim becomes the aggressor. And if you don't ever question your anger and think that your anger is justified, you will always be tearing down relationships everywhere you go. Relationships with your kids, with your co-workers, with your wife, and you will end up lonely because anger destroys relationships. And not only does it destroy relationships, anger actually tears down your body in a physical sense. If only you would get a glimpse of what anger does to your system, like the emotions, the adrenaline that happens in your body. It's literally acid eating through your system, and you become more vulnerable to heart conditions. You become more vulnerable to blood pressure issues. You produce distorted amounts of stress chemicals into your body. And if you do this in the long run, I'm sure you've had people that have ruptured nerves and they've got into heart attacks and all these things because they got too angry. Because anger destroys you and the people around you. And anger has its root in fear. So every time you feel angry about something, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? And more often than not, you realize that I'm afraid because if I don't become angry, if I don't ever become angry, people will walk all over me. People will not see me. People will not respect me. People will invalidate me. People will not see me for the man that I am or the woman that I am or whatever. So every time you experience anger, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Because beneath that anger reaction is an emotion. Between that anger reaction is a fear of something. You are afraid that people will hurt you. You are afraid people will walk all over you. You are afraid that people will disrespect you. You have said to yourself, enough is enough. I will never let anyone walk all over me like they did when I was young, when I was in primary school, when I was bullied. I will never ever let another partner talk to me this way. I will never. So you see, do you see how the fear starts to show up? Like your fear of going through the same things that you've been going through, or that you went through years and years and years and years ago, and it manifests itself today to destroy the relationships that you've taken so much to build and all of that. And I've also said that, you know, anger, people use anger to get their way, because we know that angry people will always get their way. When I start shouting in the home, guess what? Everybody gets into line. Everyone gets into line. So it's a control mechanism. And for a lot of people, anger gets them what they want, you know. If I start shouting and I say to my wife, you know, you will see me today, you will see what I will do today. What do you think she's going to do? She's going to do everything she can to make, you know, to give you whatever it is that you want to have your way. But guess what? She becomes resentful, and it's only a matter of time before you completely destroy all of these relationships and end up cold and lonely.
Wow. So what would be a practical way then to deal with it? Is it, do I just talk to myself in the mirror and say, hey, Rudzani, what are you afraid of? You know,
So
let's have a conversation. And how do I deal with it?
So how do people support each other when they have acknowledged that we have issues? Let's use an example and say, so maybe I'm the husband and I have temper issues, right? And I have seen and I have acknowledged that there's a temper problem in the home. I grew up in an abusive home. My father was an alcoholic. He was verbally, physically, emotionally, financially abusive, and I used to fear my dad so much that when it's time for him to come home, my heart would literally start beating, like beating fast. That's how I feared my dad, and this was the case with everybody else in my home. He was a feared man. But guess what? Because of that, he never got the opportunity to connect with me as his son, and we never had a good relationship as a result. So to acknowledge that there's an issue is half the job done. To acknowledge that there's an issue is half the job done. Now, it's a whole different ballgame when you say to your partner that, look, honey, I understand and acknowledge that I have a temper issue, right? And I need you to help me deal with this issue, right? And can you imagine what it does to the relationship? Like just admitting to her that it's not your problem. You are not the issue is me, right? Acknowledge to her. And she is more willing. And if it's a wife and you acknowledge to your husband, I acknowledge that I've got paranoia issues and I'm very untrusting. So I need you to help me deal with this issue. So in this, they'll tell you in counseling that Pastor Eric will tell you that when they're counseling people, they'll tell people that you never fight each other, you fight the problem. But the reason why it's so hard to fight the problem is that people won't acknowledge that there's an issue. So when you acknowledge that there's an issue, you open the door for help to come in. And every time you find yourself in a situation where you are tempted, and I say you are tempted because we are not automatic robots. There's always an opportunity for a pause between being stimulated and reacting. I call it the golden gap. The golden gap is somebody has triggered you and you have acknowledged it. And in that moment, you have a choice to either react and go with the emotion as if it were a fact, or you can pause and say, I'm tempted to react in this way, but I'm not going to. So I'm either removing myself in the situation, take a walk, and clear my mind. And more often than not, you realize that when you do that, when you create a pause between the stimuli and the reaction, you realize that when you come back to the same situation, you realize that you see the emotion for what it really was, you know. And in this, so you give yourself the opportunity to respond from. So 2 words: responding versus reacting, right? Responding versus reacting. Responding is you are empowered, you are in the driver's seat. Reacting, you are in the in the passenger seat because you are like a dog. Have you ever noticed dogs at night? If a dog next door barks, automatically the dogs next door will bark back. And we're not dogs, we're human beings. We have more control over that. So creating a pause between the stimulation or the trigger. And the trigger can be your wife or your husband, could be a situation, it could be traffic. Like, try this the next time you're in traffic and you're tempted to get angry at that combi driver who cut you in the front, and you really want to tell them what they are, right? And in that moment, you take a deep breath and you say, what is this showing me about? What is this emotion showing about me? Because we have been empowered. Remember, the Bible says that anger, we said anger is rooted in fear, right? And the Bible specifically says we have not been given a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power, love, and the what? And the sound mind. We are not victims to situations. We are in a position of control, and we have power to not react in any way that we do not want to. And it starts with the end in mind. Do I want a fulfilling, compassionate, loving relationship, or do I want a scared wife who does everything I say, but who is resentful? So if the answer is, do I want a compassionate wife or husband, automatically your actions they're predetermined because you already know what you're going to say. You already know what you're going to say. So I know it's difficult when you are feeling it and you want to do it and you want to say it, right? But trust me, your kids will thank you, your wife will thank you, your husband will thank you, your co-workers will thank you when you do decide to take control and respond from principle as opposed to emotion. Because emotions are fickle, emotions lie, emotions exaggerate, emotions will, all they do is they tell you the wounds that you carry. That's all they do. They tell you the wounds that you carry. So every time you have you blow up at someone, right? It's not their problem. It's not, they were just the trigger, right? Here's a formula that I want to leave with you, right? Here's a formula that I want to leave with you, right? And I know this sounds very bold, and maybe the first time I say it, you're going to fight me in your mind because you've probably never heard somebody say this, but it's the truth. And it's there throughout the Bible, right? No situation, no person, no thing can make you feel anything without your permission. No situation, no thing, no human being can make you feel anything without your permission, right? What do I mean by that? What causes the emotional reaction is not what somebody has said, is not what the situation you're in has done. It's we have to add an equation. So let's say emotion is the first part of the equation. Emotion, reaction is the last part of the equation. There's something that goes in between here, and that's what I'm about to reveal to you. Do you know what that thing is? The thing that has been causing all of your emotional reactions to this day. Your emotional reactions have not been caused by people. So emotion, your emotional reaction is the end result, right? So there's the thing and the emotional reaction, but there's a gap, there's something in between, and that thing is called a belief. Nothing can make you feel anything without your belief. What you believe about what's been said, what you believe about this situation that you're in, what you believe about what someone has just done is what's causing your emotional reactions, not the thing, not the situation, not the words. Should I repeat that? The emotional reaction is a result of what you believe about what's been said, about the situation that you find yourself in, about this thing that you think is stressing you out. Remove the belief. Put 10 different people in the same situation and they don't react the same. What is the deal here? What is the thing that is causing the different reactions yet the same situation? It's what you believe. If I act in a certain way that triggers the way that you were treated when you were probably younger, or what so and so did to you or whatever, I realize this is a lot harder than it sounds, but it's the truth. If you really want to be free, you're going to have to apply some of these things, because I am still dealing with some of my personal traumas that I went through when I was younger. I'll give you an example. I was a late bloomer. I only started to date when I was 20, 21, because I had a very low self-esteem. And my low self-esteem came from being bullied in school. Being bullied in school, I was always slim, I was always skinny, and I was teased and I was called all kinds of names. And because all of those things did something to me and to my spirit, I always believed that I was never good enough for anyone. And because of that, I never even attempted to date anyone, because I thought to myself, who would want to be with me, right? No one, right? So I grew up, and then because I always had a self-esteem issue, right? Because I always had a self-esteem issue, I found myself being rejected in a lot of my earlier relationships, right? You date someone and then they just leave you for no reason. Sometimes they just ghost you. Ghosting is a new word that I learned from the young people recently. It's called being ghosted. When someone just disappears on you with no explanation, no communication, nothing, no closure. So I thought to myself, this hurts, because rejection hurts a lot. It hurts so much, right? So what I started to do was I started to get into relationships, right? What I started to do when I got into relationships, guess what? If I saw anything that looked like what had happened before, guess what I will do? I would run, right? I became a runner. I became a professional runner from relationships. I would run for my life. So I would meet people. I met this wonderful person and she wants to build a relationship with me, except once in a while she would do things that would trigger a lot of the things that I had gone through before. So if I saw something that I thought could mean rejection, guess what I will do? I'm out. So I became the runner, and I became the person that hurts people, because my actions would hurt people that had no intentions of rejecting me. But I just thought that because of their actions at that particular moment. But remember, we said there's the trigger and there's the emotional reaction, and in between there's a belief. So a trigger is very neutral, because a trigger can look like anything. Like, you could call me and I may not pick up your phone because I'm genuinely busy, right? And to put two people in the same situation, one of them could say, oh, Mr. Malawi is busy, he'll probably call me back when he is free, right? And go on about my day, and I have absolutely no reaction to it emotionally, right? And somebody could say, I've called him 4 times. Why is he not picking up? Who is he with? What is going on there? And the only difference between these two people, guess what? It's exactly the same situation, but what we believe about this situation is what causes the emotional reaction. So if you could get into a habit of asking yourself, what am I responding to here? What is this emotion showing about what I believe about people not picking up their phones? What is this emotion revealing about what it means when somebody blue ticks me? Because being blue ticked, I could have my chat open and I'm having a very important business meeting, right? That could change our life as husband and wife. But what the thoughts that run through your head in this moment is the most critical thing, because that thing is the difference between an emotional reaction and a healthy reaction.
Yeah. Wow. No, this is a lot of powerful stuff. For those that don't know, blue tweaks, ghosting, grab a millennial next to you and just ask them what is actually going on. What are we talking about? I'm sure they'll be able to help you. What an important thing about your belief. What you believe is that in between thing that informs your perspective. Every Sunday, as Every Nation Midrand, we have services at 9 a.m. on YouTube and then also SOTV.online. This is where you can really join us and participate in having your belief shaped in a way that is aligned with the kingdom of God, that is aligned to heaven. We want to see His will done here on earth as it is in heaven. And this is really a mechanism for us to help you in that particular journey. So do tune in every Sunday, 9 a.m. And if you want to be a part of us, if you want to be a part of community and you're not in community and you're saying, well, some of these things sound like I need to be in community to participate, search for us across all our social media platforms and DM us. And we'll really be able to talk to you and guide you as to where the nearest community you can plug into is located. This can be in the form of our connect groups, our cell groups that can help you in your particular journey. So as I've said before in the previous sessions, never believe that you are alone. You are not alone. There are people who love you. We want to be part of your community and to help you in this particularly important journey. Tony, let's take a few questions. So, you have spoken a lot from the perspective of me as a person dealing with my stuff so that I'm appropriate for, whether it's friendship, relationship, marital, whatever kind of relationship that I find myself in. How do we actually deal with a case where I feel okay from a mental health point of view, but people I'm in a relationship with, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship or a child, are not actually okay. They're going through some mental health issues. How do I actually help them and support them in that particular journey? What are some tools I can use?
That's a powerful question. And I'm going to take you back to a conversation that we had once, that we had in the first session, I think. And I said that you only get one of two responses from people, either a loving response or a cry for help, right? Either a loving response or a cry for help, right? Because human beings are wired for love. And because we are created in the image of a creator whose essence is love, it's automatic that you are supposed to be a loving being. And if I'm not getting love from you, the only explanation that is there is that you are crying out for help. Jesus prayed a prayer on the cross and he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, right? He understood that it was not personal to him. It was just a cry for help from the people that were nailing him on the cross, right? And even me just saying that, doesn't it just change the perspective? Like, it makes you more compassionate, and it makes you more willing to help, because you ultimately understand that it's not about me. It's about this person, even though they think that they are trying to hurt me, but it's really just a cry for help, because in essence they are supposed to be a loving being, because we are all created in the image of a creator who is love, right? So when you do that, you emotionally detach yourself from any kind of reaction. Remember, we said what you believe about what's going on here is what's going to cause the emotional reaction. So if I believe that my wife, here is a very common thing that happens, right? So the missus gets home, and you talk to her nicely, and then she responds like in a very sneaky way, and you're thinking, oh, okay, cool. Your first assumption should always be, I wonder what happened at work today. Like, I wonder what she's going through, because she is naturally a loving being, isn't she? So the next step is to ask, baby, are you okay? Is everything cool? Because you understand it's not even about you. You are just a trigger. But in essence, something else has got to be going on, because love is what I'm supposed to be getting from you. And look, I'm not suggesting that it's easy, because when the Bible talks about the fruits of the fruits of the Spirit come to life through practice. We come to life, they come, the more we work them in us, the more they become natural, the more they, trust me, it gets to a point where you can actually have a relationship with someone where you know for sure that this person would never, ever deliberately, in their right mind, hurt me, because that's not who they are. Who they are is a child of the Almighty. But sometimes, life gets in the way and they become a certain way, which is not loving. And it's for you to, that is the foundational truth. You must always think and operate from that foundation of knowing that this person, their real selves is love. And if it's not love that I'm getting, it's an opportunity for you to jump in and ask, what is it that is going on? And half the time when you give people that opportunity, when you don't react emotionally to situations like that, when you give people that opportunity to come and say, guess what? They start opening up and tell you what the real issue is. Let me give you an example. Like, have you ever walked into a supermarket or a bank or whatever institution, and the till operator is just so rude, man? Like, they are just so rude. And there's that opportunity. That is an opportunity for you to have a toxic emotional reaction and tell this person off and tell them, hey, listen, man, because you're sitting there, I pay your salary, and you can get into all kinds of things, right? But if you really understand that this till operator knows nothing about me, and she has absolutely no reason to act the way that she is acting towards me, it can only mean that something is going on here. Something is going on in her world, and this is her way of crying out for help. This behavior in itself is evidence of a cry for help. So we shared Romans 12:22 the other day, and I said that when your enemy is thirsty, you give them water, and they're hungry, you give them food. Because when you are doing this, you are heaping burning coals on their head. Why the head? Because the head is where the brain is, right? Why coal? Why burning coal? Because heat melts. It says, do not be overcome by evil. Overcome evil with good. Every time you exercise love in a toxic situation, love wins no match. Absolutely any, it doesn't matter what time of day it is. Ultimately, love wins because love is born of a creator, and evil is born of a creation. So love is not the opposite of evil. Love is superior, but we don't exercise love in toxic situations. That's why evil seems to win a lot of the times. That's why people get into fights and conflict, because you are not exercising love in a toxic situation. Because when you exercise that authority, love has the authority to tell evil, you sit down. I know this person is acting negative towards me, but guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to give this enemy, in quotes, water and drink, because you understand that scientifically speaking, every time you exercise love towards a person who's being toxic to you, you literally melt the evil in their head. And we can prove that to you in a very scientific way, that love is superior to evil, but we don't exercise it. That's why we don't see the results. So when we exercise it and keep seeing the results, we are more motivated to do more. I have met people that will practically say this. You say something nasty to them and they'll say, God bless you. And they go about their day and take nothing personally, because they understand this principle that love is a superior force, but we just don't exercise it enough. We are so consumed and socialized to fight fire with fire. That's how they say it on the streets. Like, you fight an eye for an eye, fire for fire. That's what they say. So if you are nasty to me, I'm going to be nasty right back at you. But guess what? When you create that pause we were talking about, whether it's a tool operator, whether it's at work, whether it's your boss, when you create that gap and you respond from principle, not from emotion, you start to see a lot of victory in and guess what? People are literally healed by love, because love is the foundation of mental health. And I'm not surprised, because God is love and he is the author of mental health. So ultimately it goes back to him. He is the foundation of mental health. If you want to be happy, whatever being happy means, try being loving and try learning how to receive love. Because I also understand that, receiving love is not something that is natural to us. It's easy for us to give, but receiving love is a challenge for a lot of people because of what they are used to. They are not used to it. How many times have you said to people, so and so, you are really great at what you do, and they'll be like, no, man, no, nonsense, and so every time you are tempted to dismiss a compliment or somebody trying to be good to you, you need to work on receiving love. So it's a balance between giving and receiving love. But really, love is the foundation for good mental health. It is the anchor for mental health. It's where everything flows from. Love anchors mental health. Put that on your fridge, write it down on a piece of paper somewhere, and say, if you ever get lost, if you don't remember anything I've said in this session, remember this: love anchors mental health.
Wow. Thanks for that. I mean, that's perspective shifting stuff right there. Like the fact that we should be expectant of love, and when we're not getting love, our response should not be, let me fight you back, but let me love you. Let me actually come to you and find what's going on. Where are you? Because love is a superior force. That really changes everything. It really does. So thank you for that perspective. We're going to take just one more question and we're going to start wrapping up. So there's
Yes.
one of our listeners is just struggling a little bit with what we're saying about emotions. That emotions are a gift is a thing that has been mentioned. At the same time, emotions are fickle, and we should operate from principle and not from emotion. So how do we balance these two perspectives? That emotions are a gift, at the same time they are fickle. So how do you actually contextualize this, in this, sort of story that we are talking about?
Emotions are a gift in the sense that they give us feedback. If they are good emotions, all it's feedback that whatever you're doing, you must do more of that, right? Whatever you're doing, you must do more of. And uh, if they're toxic emotions, uh, they are also giving you feedback, and they're telling you this is something you ought to stop doing, right? It's just feedback, and feedback is neutral, right? Feedback is neutral. What you do with it is entirely up to you. Now, negative emotions cannot be relied on as a basis for any action, because they, especially if they are revealing wounds in you, you cannot act from negative emotions. I hope this is making sense. You cannot act from negative emotions because they are not. The fact that they are always changing is also a problem, especially when they are negative, right? So you cannot use them as a basis for any kind of action, because you know that they in themselves are not to be the basis for any of your actions. They're just there to tell you that, you know, there's a problem here and you need to pay attention to it, right? You need to pay attention to this thing. So that's what I meant when I said they are there to give you feedback. They are neutral, right? And even in themselves being neutral, they cannot be relied on as they are not the issue. They are pointing you to an issue that you may have. I hope that's sufficient enough explanation to say they cannot
Very clear.
be, that they cannot be relied on to, especially if they are emotions that are showing you wounds about yourself. You cannot then say because when you are wounded in your perception, the emotions that result from that are up and down. They are not stable. They will exaggerate things. They will amplify things. They will make you believe that things are far much worse than they actually are. So, in that sense, you cannot rely on them to to be the basis of any of your actions, especially when they are negative.
No, thank you for that. I think let's just do one last quick one. So as a church, we obviously have a lot of people that we disciple in one way or another that we're working with. How do you actually just what tips would you give to someone that's perhaps mentoring somebody who is from an abusive upbringing, to avoid them becoming an abuser themselves? Like, what would be some tips, to say, how do you work with somebody like that?
Um, Awareness is the first part, as we mentioned before. The fact that you can see that there's a problem here, it goes a long way in because a lot of the people that become abusers are not even aware that this is what they're doing. By the way, they think that they are trying to protect themselves, but in reality, they are hurting themselves and hurting other people. So If this is something that is coming from the person that they are mentoring and discipling, then it's a good place to start, because it means that I recognize that there's an issue here. And when you recognize that there's an issue here, I'm not going to continue to make excuses for my behavior, but I'm going to take responsibility for my behavior and do the necessary things that I need to do to deal with this problem. Let's say somebody has turned out violent in a home, and then they come to you and they say, you know what, I'm concerned about the fact that I beat up my wife. That person is more willing and is more likely to see change in themselves and the change in their relationship, because they acknowledge that there's a problem here and they own it, and they are willing to do the necessary things to deal with this particular issue. In fact, the fact that they're being discipled, it puts them in a far greater position than somebody who is not aware, who's sort of on automation, who keeps abusing people, who keeps going and they make excuses for their behavior. So that's the difference between the two. So if they are in a place where they are even discipled, it means they are in a really good place to get help. I had lost you there for some time. Hello?
No, awesome. Thank you so much, Tony, for the time and all the insights and really wealth of wisdom that we've benefited from today. And friend, I just want to talk to you that if you are at home and some of these things have really touched your heart and you want to talk to somebody, please DM us on one of our social media platforms. We want to help you in this particular journey. And one of the key things when your perspective of love is a bit tainted and you're not able to see clearly, is to encounter a powerful experience of love. And one of the most powerful experiences of love that we get to experience is Jesus on the cross of Calvary. When he died there, he was saying, I love you. I know what you've done. I know what you've been through. I know every single thing. Others might label you as shameful. Others might say that you are guilty. Others might say you are unworthy. But I say, I love you and I want you in my house and I want you to be a child of mine. There is no love like that. It is a great and mighty love. So really just trusting that, friend, as you're sitting there and you just need somebody to connect with and to experience this kind of love, get in touch with us. We want to help you in your journey. Our WhatsApp number is shown at the bottom. DM us on the different social media platforms. We want to help you along this journey to experience the greatest love of all, which is Jesus Christ. And that's a great foundation for you to begin that mental wellness journey. Let's just pray in closing and just thank Tony for all the time and all the investment that is really made in us and to our relationships today. Father, we just thank you for the gift of emotions. We thank you that you have given us these things as indicators of things that are going on in us, Lord. They are not things to lead us and to guide us, but they are things to indicate, to give us a message, to give us a message that we should actually be responding to. Help us and free us from reacting, oh God, to be people who respond in the name of Jesus. Let us not be like brutal beasts who merely act out of instinct and just respond and just react, oh God, but let us be responding because we are actually operating from principle, operating from love in the mighty name of Jesus. Father, we just pray that even to the way that we look at the world, the way that we look at people, the way that we see things, Lord, won't you change our perspectives, renew our minds, renew our thinking so that we may see people as you do. Help us to see and expect love. And when we don't get it, help us, oh Father, to not freak out and actually react in a negative way, but to react with love. Because love always wins. Love always wins as a superior force. So we just pray for that. And we thank you for Tony and for all that he has done for us today, for the planting, for the watering that he has done into families, into friendships, into relationships with everyone that is watching, oh God. We pray that there will be fruit and much fruit from that in the mighty name of Jesus. You are so worthy, Lord. You are so worthy. There is truly no God like you. We love you, my Father, and we lift you on high. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Tony, again. This was absolutely incredible. We've benefited a lot from it. Thanks a lot, guys.
So
Have a
much.
good evening.
Cheers.